A group of us were talking at Masterful You the other day about suffering and about how people are often saying, yeah, I don't have a problem with something like guilt. I don't feel guilty about anything. I don't have any sadness. I don't have any repressed emotions. I'm not angry about anything. So our tendency is to say, and we all did it. This is how we know. Our tendency is to say everything's fine. Don't look here. There's nothing going on that anybody needs to explore or look into because I'm just fine. And yet, right now, what we were talking about is when you look around the world, when you look around the United States, and you see all of the evidence of the suffering, at some point, we're going to need to say, I'm part of that. My experience is part of that. Because until we admit where we are to ourselves, you don't have to tell another living soul, but until we admit to ourselves where we are, we can't make different choices. We can't heal ourselves, and we can't evolve and grow as a community, whether that's your own, your own family, whether it's a community group that you belong to, or it's the entire nation or world. Until we take responsibility for, yes, I have places in my life where I'm suffering and I'm really uncomfortable about it because I don't know what to do about it. Until we get to that step, nothing can change. And we just keep pointing fingers and saying it's other people. But the truth is, we are the people. So I invite you into this healing journey with me. Today, I'm not going to talk about concepts with you. I'm going to actually give you tools that you can use right now today to walk step by step from whatever experience you're having to one that feels lovely, to one where you actually recognize, my God, there's so much more about me that I didn't know. And as I become aware of that, I can really create a life I love. It's not as hard as we think. The challenge is that we believe it's hard, and we need to actually give ourselves a chance to experience something different. Life doesn't have to be a struggle. Your life does not have to be a struggle, no matter what you hear or no matter what you see out there about how people are going about things. You are not the problem. It's the approaches that we learned. They don't lead to the happiness and health and vitality and prosperity that we all were looking for, that we all once openly dreamed about. Hi, I'm Chris Burke. Welcome to Healing from A to Z with Masterful You. Yes, that's you. And KB. That's me. We're going to be talking about guilt today. Guilt's a tricky one because in a society that talks a lot about not being judgmental or talks about toxicity, there is a lot of guilting and shaming going on. And the problem with that, or the biggest problem with that, is that oftentimes we adopt what we see happening in the outside world. We don't realize that we do, but we adopt those patterns. They become unconscious and they start driving our own thoughts and feelings and behaviors. So what happens is we hear that somebody did something bad and they're guilty, right? And then we do something similar to that. Maybe somebody goes out and they have too many drinks, right? And then we go out and we have too many drinks. And the internal voice is going like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I'm bad for doing that. Don't tell anybody about it. I just won't do it again. The problem with this is that when I start feeling guilty about things, and then I feel like I need to hide those parts of myself from other people, then I add like shame on top of that. And then I add pretending on top of that guilt. Pretty soon I've got this big pile of BS that I'm actually living. I've convinced myself that I need to be different than I actually am. This process that we're going to go through is one of exploring and discovering and finding out, hey, this is all part of the human experience. Who you are, how you've behaved, all of that is just part of being human. everybody's doing it. And when we learn how to approach things better, more purposely, more consciously, less just running patterns that we've learned, less fearfully, then we make better choices for ourselves, choices that work for us, choices that work for the people in our lives. So my dog is now in a pattern of deciding that she has to go out right when I'm in the like heated energy, the passionate flow of this video recording. So I pause the video and I let her out. And in a few moments, she'll be telling me she needs to come back in. This is our reality. The choice I make is to laugh about it. And that's kind of part of the point, is that when we're feeling like we're unacceptable, that we're unworthy, that nothing's ever going to change for us, when we look at our past behaviors or our past experiences and we connect ourselves or attach ourselves to that and say, that's who I am, we become limited and trapped in continuing to have the same kind of experiences, which will become progressively worse and worse and worse over time, because we start accumulating even more experience, even more evidence that there's something fundamentally wrong with us. I know, because I did this for a long time. And it took me 18 years to climb back out to a place where I can actually look at anything that was in my past and say, oh, yeah, I see that. I see why that was there. I see why I needed that coping mechanism. I see why I was uncomfortable being in this particular situation or that particular situation. I can understand and therefore accept and forgive myself, because what you recognize when you get through this place of healing is that there's never really anything to forgive. That we are doing the best we can in a complicated world where we have a lot of information coming into us that causes fear. And that scary information triggers our instincts and keeps us from being able to access other parts of our mind. Intuition, inspiration, that creative urge that would drive you forward and show you opportunities. And even to use the rational mind for bettering things instead of just using it to complain about the things that are bothering us, which tends to be maybe a national pastime. I don't know. I mean, I've participated. So I'm not pointing the finger anywhere. I'm just saying, if that's all we use our intellect for, how can we ever create a path forward that actually delivers a better experience? So right now, let's talk about guilt, specifically your guilt. And this is all for you. This is about your discovery process and about your healing. So when you look at, where are 3 situations in the past where you felt guilty? And just write those things down. I know for me, I sold my horses when I went to school. Horses that I paid for by myself by cleaning houses. And I sold them when I went to college. It wasn't enough money to pay for the first semester of school, but I didn't know back then how I was supposed to go about creating a life for myself. And I felt very strongly that I needed to go to college. So I did that. And I carried the guilt of having sold my best friends, like my best childhood friends. I carried the guilt of that for years and years and years until I finally acknowledged it. So that would have been on my list, right? Okay. Now, on the other side of the list, so we always want to do both sides of the coin, write down 3 situations where you're holding others responsible and saying they're guilty of doing something to you. Or it could be they are guilty of having done something to somebody else. Just write down 3 of those. It's so important that we understand that guilt is part of the human experience, that screwing up is part of the human experience. Until we find out what's driving us and make choices about whether or not that's how we want to have the experience, And sure enough, just like clockwork, my dog just came back in. This is a new trend. She's going to sit with her dad tomorrow while I record. Anyway, you can't make better choices. You can't behave differently until you become aware of what it is that's driving your behavior. So let's get to know what's happening in our experience. When you have your three guilts, like personal guilts, and three guilts that belong to other people, draw a circle around that. This is your starting place for your current experience with guilt. This is what you're currently aware of. Now we're going to interview that experience. But first, we'll ask on a scale of 1 to 10, where is your experience? So with 1 being, my guilt is so bad, or my expression of guilt, projection of guilt on someone else is so bad that I feel like I don't even want to get out of bed. Like it's too heavy, it's too much. And a 10 being, I'm at peace with whatever happens in my experience and I understand that I'm learning and growing. Where are you currently on that scale? This is an intuitive exercise. So whatever number pops into your head, that's your number. And yes, you have intuition. Even though, I spent the first probably close to 50 years of my life in instincts, in fight or flight, without realizing that. Even though I was kind of strong businesswoman, had a strong intellect, was strategic, all that sort of stuff, it was definitely my instincts, fight or flight, fear, that was driving my behavior. So this exercise of asking yourself questions and allowing the answer to pop up is part of how we learn, oh, gee, there's another way to go through life. I have another information stream of wisdom available to me. Okay, so now that you have that number, this is your starting place. We're going to interview that starting place, get to know ourselves a little bit. What is going on in your experience at this starting number? You are not your experience. You are not the things that you say or do. You are not your body. You are, in fact, the awareness of what's going on inside and outside of you. And one of the ways that you can confirm that is think about it. How much does your body change from the time that you're a baby to the time that you're elderly, right? What happens when we gain or lose weight, when we change our body? Our body can change in all kinds of different ways. We're still the same awareness on the inside. We're still aware of the experience. So it's really important that we realize, wow, I can change my experience and have a completely different one. I don't have to keep reliving whatever it is that's been happening so far. This is ultimate freedom. So first we have to know, in order to change our experience, to improve it, we have to know where we are. So let's interview that and say, at this number, what are you currently thinking about guilt? What are your thoughts about guilt? Just write those down. Pause the video whenever you need to. You can go to masterfulyou.com for a workbook that will give you these prompts that I'm giving you right now, so you can do them on your own time, and it will guide you through that process. Okay, what are you feeling emotionally about guilt? Yeah, guilt might be part of it, but there may very well be other emotions that you're feeling. You might also say, I'm feeling tired, right? Write down whatever comes to mind. What are you saying and doing inside your own mind, inside your own conversation, your internal dialogue, and also with other people that has to do with guilt? What are you doing or not doing, saying or not saying because of guilt? Allow your intuition to deliver answers to you. If it doesn't pop in right away, that's fine. It'll come later. What do you sense in your body? So use your awareness to scan your body and notice how it feels. You might feel tingling somewhere. You might feel tension in your jaw. I just got this little fluttery feeling in my shoulder, right? And after I do this video, I will explore a little bit to ask, what's that about? Okay, and then finally, what do you know? What do you know to be true about yourself and your experience when you were at this number with guilt? Okay, really well done. Now, let's set your destination. Where are you going? I have this very strong sense that the destination that we set is actually lining us up with our destiny, that we are able to access that part of our intuition, that part of our unconscious that knows about our destiny, our soul's plan, if you want to call it that. And that when we allow ourselves to do this exercise and saying, where am I going? We're actually opening the door to get communication about where we intended to be, so that we can open that up and move in that direction. Get away from the limits of the past. Okay, so now choose your number on that scale of 1 to 10, where you're going. Where are you going to move your experience to? I often recommend, probably always recommend to people, that you choose like a 7 or 8. Something that feels like a reach, but also achievable. And as you move along through the process and it starts getting better and better, you can always choose a higher number, but you'll also start to realize that there's no limit. You get to a 10 and you'll realize there's even more room for growth and improvement. It's one of the really fun things about healing, is that you get to start enjoying the good things of this thing called life. Okay, so now we're going to plant a seed, kind of paint a picture of what your experience is going to be like at this new number. And then we're going to plant that in the subconscious. And don't worry about it. You don't actually have to do that, because that happens automatically. When you imagine something and you have emotion around it, that gets planted in your unconscious, and that will start coming about. However, all of the wounds that we carry, all of the stories about ourselves that we were wrong, not good enough, needed to be different than we were, don't deserve, whatever the things are, all of those stories will keep whatever we're planting, that vision, from coming to fruition, which is why we really want to continually look at ourselves and discover, what's the truth of my experience? And then choose to let that go. Choose to let the past go if that's not what you want. If you decide that you want to keep your experience going exactly as it is, fantastic. You certainly can do that. The point here is not to make your experience acceptable to somebody else, or not to get applause from somebody else, but to actually, in your own skin, be like, I like being me. This feels good. And I know with absolute certainty, no matter what happens in my experience, I can always choose to improve it. That's always on the table, because that's the fun of being human. Okay, so this new experience, what will you be thinking at this new number? What will you be feeling emotionally? You might have some emotions you haven't felt in a long time. What were the ones that you loved in childhood that lit you up? What will you be saying and doing to yourself and others? How will the internal dialogue change when you're at this new number with guilt, when you have this new relationship with your perception of guilt and your experience of it? What will you sense in your body? How will it feel different to be in your skin? And then finally, what will you know is true about you and your experience when you have improved it just by doing this process? Kind of exciting, huh? I'm not asking anybody to take my word for it. I never would have believed it myself. I wouldn't have believed that it worked, except that I used the process without really knowing that's what I was doing. And it kept happening. And then the words kind of came later, like, oh, this is the process that I'm using. And then, of course, other students used it. Other teachers used it, facilitators. And we all started going, whoa, this is pretty powerful stuff. Okay, this next step is we're going to ask ourselves, what do I need to know or do to move from my current experience to my destined experience or my destination experience, the one that you're choosing? We're asking our unconscious mind to communicate with us and give us the signs to move forward, to give us the information that we need to bring it into our conscious awareness so that we know what step to take, what action to take to move forward toward that experience. This can come in any channel of information. So we're looking at our mental, emotional, physical, both the inside and the outside, our five senses, and also what we know, right? So we are looking at all of these different levels of awareness and saying what's going on there. Most of the time, most of us learn to just be caught in our thoughts, to just kind of recycle the same thoughts over and over and over again. And then we would just take action, kind of the same action that we'd been taking, because that's what our thoughts told us to do. That's where they directed us. So this is about saying, I want new information, please. I want information that will open doors and windows for me so that I can move forward in a direction that will actually feel better for you, that will create more happiness and health, that will help you to create a life you love. Because after all, that is the point. You are here having a life. Making that a life you love is what will not only heal you, but ultimately, when we start learning how to do that together, heal our world. And won't that be a lovely thing? Thank you for being here today with me. Thank you for spending your precious time. If you need additional support on this journey, or if you want additional support, please go to masterfulyou.com. Look below to see the video link to weekly recap. My dear friend and colleague Judy Forder and I will be going through the G's this week and really digging in. She asks great questions and the audience asks great questions, and we end up really digging around into those areas of guilt where maybe you have a wall that says, I know this is true about guilt and I can't look at it any other way. We start digging around at that and just say, is it really true that we need to keep ourselves trapped in our guilt? Or is it okay if we allow ourselves to experience something new, to heal? Yeah. All right, so submit questions below if you have any. We look forward to answering those. And again, thank you for being here with me today. And thank you for being you.